to the 100th episode of the Shiny New Clients podcast. Oh, I'm actually so excited that I made it here. And the first time that I am recording video for the internet. Will the internet like it? I don't know. But the good thing and bad thing about the internet is they always tell you what they think. Everything that could have gone wrong has gone wrong. My tech setup is the worst. I'm sitting on the floor of my sister's cabin. I'm like, this is the least professional setup that I've ever had, except for that one time when I had to record in my parents' basement because their TV was so loud. There was nowhere in the house that I could go that I couldn't hear it on the camera. So I hid myself under an ancient 30-year-old crocheted Afghan and recorded it from there. So that was also not super professional. Okay, listen. I'm not a very big reader when it comes to actually reading the words with my eye holes, okay? But I'm a huge listener, and I am probably the only podcast out there not sponsored by Audible who's gonna tell you how much she loves Audible. Audible, will you please sponsor me? Because legit, I listen to so many business books. I'm like a slow reader. I'm not that great at it. I think I get distracted pretty easily. And so since Audible's come into my life, I've been able to consume so much learning, so much from business books, from marketing books, from manifestation books. I love it so much. So today, for my 100th episode, I'm gonna tell you some of the biggest one-liner life-changing takeaways I have had from some of my favorite books for business owners. Hooray! My husband's family are readers. We often go to their off-grid cabin up in the wilderness of Manitoba, and his mom will get through multiple books in a week. His sister will get through multiple books in a week, and I will be hiking to the top of a hill to see if I can get cell service. Listen, I am an outdoorsy person. I love the outdoors, but when everybody is reading, I'm like, this isn't for me. I just get frustrated. I'm so bad at choosing books. It's just whatever. So we're at the cabin, right? And his mom's already on probably her second book of the week. And I go, okay, maybe I'll give this reading thing a shot. And I look at these old, dusty bookshelves. I have to climb a chair to get to them. Nobody's looked at these books in literally tiny years. And I found some books by Farley Mowat. And like I said, I like the outdoors, and Farley Mowat is this old school Canadian author. He was writing books back in the 60s. He's an environmentalist and he loves nature, and they're often about outside. And I found this book called Never Cry Wolf, and I dug in and I couldn't stop. I loved it. I couldn't put it down. I sped through it. I loved it. And then I was like, give me more Farley Mowat. I want to read everything I can get my hands on. This particular book, Never Cry Wolf, was about him living up in the Canadian wilderness, basically befriending wolves and talking to indigenous people that explained how to comprehend their howls and what the groups of wolves were saying to each other. I was obsessed with it, right? I'm like, this is the best. And I get back to civilization and I go to my mom and she's like, oh, I have a bunch of Farley Mowat books here in the bookshelf. I didn't really care for him. You can have all of them. And he's got these war stories about his time in the war and all of these. I loved it. I loved it. And then I have a point, I swear. So I go on vacation to a canoe trip in the Yukon, and I think I'm going to find a bookstore in Whitehorse, and I'm going to see if they have Farley Mowat, and I'm going to get one of his adventure stories to go along with this grand adventure I'm about to have on this canoe trip. As I was Googling which books I should look for and what they were about, I came upon a quote from my hero, Farley. Let me read you this quote. I never let facts get in the way of truth. Farley Mowat came under fire for embellishing his stories. And some of the moments that I had fallen in love with weren't even true. They were lies and embellishments. And yes, they made for a good story, but I thought they were true. And I felt so misled by Farley Mowat. I don't even know if he's still alive. Farley, if you're out there, you owe me, man. I felt so misled that I again gave up reading for a second time, which is maybe ridiculous. And then there was another book that I loved reading in high school. It's called Go Ask Alice, and it's the journal of this girl who gets, struggles with addiction and goes through all this stuff. And I remember I think I read it twice in high school. I loved it so much. That one was written in the 70s, 1971. And then we discover That's a lie too. And she basically made up the story and fictionalized it, and it was like this housewife, and she didn't even go through it, and it wasn't true. So I felt so lied to. So okay, so back to business books. It's like business books for me. I don't want to listen to any stories. I just want to learn. And that it has problems of its own. I should probably read something that's just entertainment, but right now I just love business books. I love positivity books. I love books about manifesting. I love books about goal setting, all of that, and that's what I'm into. So that's what we're going to talk about. Favorite book of all time? The Happiness Advantage by Shawn Achor. I love it. It's bright orange. You can't miss it. He also has a TED Talk, so if you want to watch that, you can watch that. I love this book. It starts out about happiness and how to be happier in your life and the science of happiness, and then it turns into kind of a management book where we're learning about how to run a team. That's how I perceived it, and I loved both angles of it. He talks about this thing called the Tetris effect, which is a psychological phenomenon where if you do a whole bunch of something, your brain starts to form habits and see it everywhere, and you want to do it all the time. So the experiment that these folks did, I'm going to just paraphrase this, right? It's going to be like pretty much true. I'm going to pull a Farley Mowat and just tell you it as I remember it. They had a whole bunch of people play Tetris on and on and on and on. And then those people just went out into the world and they would like look at the bricks on a wall, and their brain would want to like turn the bricks to make them all fall into place. And they would start seeing Tetris places. Their brain just got so used to recognizing those patterns. And one of the stories that Shawn tells is he played a ton of Call of Duty, which is like a shoot 'em up video game. And then he walked out of his, I think it was his dorm. He walks out of his dorm and he sees a police car, and he goes to open the police car door and his hand is like reaching for the handle, and then he sees his reflection in the mirror and he goes, whoa, what am I doing? Because one of the things you do in Call of Duty is you steal police cars. And he was just like walking up to do it because he had this pattern ingrained in his head from playing so much of the video game. Amendment. My husband just heard me listening back to the audio here and corrected me that it's actually Grand Theft Auto, not Call of Duty. So I'm not embarrassed for not knowing that. And then he relates in the book, he tells you how you can use this to be happier, to go after your goals, all of that stuff. By practicing seeing positivity, by practicing seeing opportunity, you're going to start to see it more. Right now, there might be opportunities that are just passing you by. Somebody pitches you and you don't even hear it, right? Somebody says they have a problem that your service could solve, and you maybe don't even hear it because you're not used to clocking those opportunities or being brave enough to grab them. And that's just one small example to put it in sort of a business perspective. That was so cool. I love that, the idea of strengthening these neural pathways in your brain that look for the sunny side, that look for the opportunity, the positivity. Loved that. I think I read that one twice. I think I actually read that one. Maybe I should go listen to it now. I can listen to it and read it. Okay, this next book I have talked to you about before. I've mentioned it before because I love it. It's Get Rich Lucky by Denise Duffield Thomas. I listen to this book all the time, endlessly. If I ever can't decide what to listen to, I just pop it on. I've listened to it cover to cover, metaphorically, cover to cover, I've listened to it, and it gets me in a good mood. It gets me manifesting. It gets me like attracting money. It gets me feeling more positive about my business on the days when we don't feel positive about our business. I love this. And my favorite thing from this book is, firstly, she introduces it as manifestation for practical Virgos. That's what she says at the beginning. So it's like, yes, it's a little bit woo in that she's talking about, you know, getting the universe to send you the things that you want, but it's seriously action oriented. So I don't think you need to be woo to benefit from it. For instance, she says marketing is manifesting. Because yes, we need to have this one side of our head that is like believing we can do something. That is getting rid of the negative mindset blocks that make us think that we're not capable of something. We want to journal it and we want to lock it into our brain. But then there's the other side where we need to actually take action, right? Because we can't just keep hoping for something, hoping for something, hoping for something. We can do all this work in our head, but we got to put pen to paper, right? We got to clickety clack on the keyboard. We got to make the posts. We got to send the emails. We have to take that determined action. So she says marketing is manifesting. It's one of the things that you can do to get those goals closer, to make those sales happen. It's putting what you want out there in the world so you can get back what you want from the world. Love that. Live by it. It seems as though the books that I reference a lot. So I have listened to and read so many business books at this point, but this one tends to come up a lot, and it's How to Win Friends and Influence People. Another classic book. How to Win Friends and Influence People is by Dale Carnegie, and it was published October 1st, 1936. October 1st, Josie, that's your birthday. That's Josie's birthday. Josie's my dog. I remember when my friend told me to read this book, and I was like in my early 20s, and I actually used to have a lot of communications issues, all right? I could have an entire another episode on this, but I wasn't always likable, and I didn't always have good communication skills. And my friend encouraged me to read this book, and then I remember telling people that I was reading it, and he came back to me and was like, Jenny, you're not supposed to tell people you're reading that book, because it is about persuasion and influence and how to win friends using psychology, which for me ended up directly transferring into my career in marketing. It's so cool. I just pulled up a little bit of info about this, and the original print ran 5,000 copies and sold out almost immediately. This book has been this popular for coming up on 100 years. Biggest takeaway from How to Win Friends and Influence People is if you want somebody to do something, you have to tell them what's in it for them. Coincidentally, or not so coincidentally, that's also the first rule of copywriting. When you write an email to your list, you write any sort of sales copy, you have to immediately talk about the reader and why this matters to them. Another setting we might put this in, because I teach social media. If you're new here, hi, I teach service-based business owners how to get clients from Instagram, grow on Instagram, get more followers and all that stuff so that you can get more clients and grow your business. If you just say to somebody, like this post, you are asking them to do something for you. But if you say, save this post so that you can return to it later, okay, well, that's a completely different thing we're talking about, right? That's for them. You're like, I just gave you a bunch of value bombs. You probably won't be able to remember them all. So why don't you save this post so that you can return to it? So save this post is going to be more for them, especially if we tell them why it's for them, versus like this post because I want more like. You know what I mean? Jelly bean? That's what my dad used to always say to me. He hasn't said that one in a long time. Maybe it's because I'm a grown adult. We're almost at the end. These are bite-sized episodes, baby. This one is Jonah Berger. Now, I always talk about this book, and I also always say the title wrong. It's also bright orange. Funny that. Contagious, How Things Catch On. And it's all about how to make content go viral and what goes viral. And I think he wrote it before social media. Well, I read it many years ago, so it's before social media was what social media is. But you know how there's that movie, that like zombie movie, and it's called Contagion? So I always mix that up. Most important, most valuable thing that I learned from Jonah Berger. Oh, I also studied this book. I took a university course. Okay, if you know me, you know that I went to college for musical theater, but then I also I'll just like take a random course, you know, go online and just like take a random course. And I used to do that all the time, and kind of strange ones sometimes, like how to run better virtual meetings. And that, oh my gosh, I'm on such a tangent right now, but I took that, how to run virtual meetings, before everything went virtual, before we were using Zoom. I took that back in Skype days. I remember, because I was in my Queen Street apartment. Why did I take that course? It's almost as if I knew the entire world and my entire life was about to go online. I didn't. Maybe I was bored? I don't even remember why I took that, but I learned so much from it. Anyway, I also studied this book in a university class where Jonah Berger had videos recorded, and you got to watch him go through chapter by chapter. So the most important thing that I learned is that viral content elicits an emotional reaction. Do you remember that cat meme? Before memes were memes, like maybe your grade 5 teacher printed this out and had it on a poster on the side of her desk. I feel like that's where I first saw it, and it's a little tiny kitten, and it's like hanging off the edge of something, and it says, hang in there. That's like the origin of where memes came from. Why was that so popular? Why do so many of us recognize that image that I'm describing right now? It's because it elicits an emotional reaction. First, you're like, aw, kitty, so cute. And then you're like, aw, kitty, hang in there. And you're like, aw, self, hang in there. Emotional. Making people laugh goes viral. Making people angry goes viral. Making people cry goes viral. Making people feel things goes viral. It always elicits an emotional reaction. And I learned that from Jonah Berger when I was first starting my social media and marketing journey. All right, that's it. I'm gonna link all those books below this episode. If you're new here, welcome. Welcome to my 100th episode. We talk about marketing, how to grow your business, the mindset around business. I have special guests that have expertise in all sorts of things around business and SEO and email marketing and all the things. If you're immediately like, I love this girl, I wanna work with her, I wanna get clients from Instagram, watch the free training that is below this episode. It's called How to Get Clients from Instagram Without Wasting Hours Glued to Your Phone. That will teach you the strategy that my clients use and tell you how to work with me. I drop new episodes every Monday, so I will see you next week.